All right, we're live. Well, we're live, everyone. Welcome to the ARCA Racing podcast. I'm your host, Colby Evans, aka Startin Parker here, and we have a big show for you guys tonight. We are reviewing not one but two races and previewing this weekend's race at Elko. So yeah, like I said, lots to talk about. The ARCA Main Series division was at Salem. That was pure calamity, whereas the ARCA West Series was at Shasta, and that was pretty calm. So you had your chaos race and your calm race. We're going to go over both of those and what the championship outlooks on both of those series. And we'll also be, like I said, previewing Elko, the little short track up in Minnesota. And I will be there this weekend back with Brad Smith Motorsports. So excited about that. We're going to talk about that as well. I do want to get out of the way. I apologize for last week, guys. Was going to do the podcast on Tuesday. Something came up, so I pushed it back to Thursday. And unfortunately, literally right in the middle of my show, my father needed to do paperwork, and very important paperwork. And so unfortunately, we had to cut the show short. I tried to get it going in my room, but my internet connection died, and then my camera died. So, yeah, we just couldn't seem to get it done. So I apologize for last week's show, not really even being a show. I think we only got like 20 minutes in. I didn't even have time to talk about Salem or Shasta last week, and I barely got through. I barely got through my IRP review. So, anyway, guys, we're going to talk about all this fun stuff. First off, you guys know the drill. Follow me on social media, Startin Parker on Twitter. We are less than 150 followers away from 6,000 followers on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it. So, go give me a follow there. Would love to get to 6,000 before the year is over. And speaking of getting to a goal, we are less than 80 subscribers away. Less than 80 away, guys, from 2,000 subscribers here on YouTube. So again, thank you guys for your continued support. I cannot believe this podcast has even gotten this popular. It makes me feel so accomplished considering when I started the show, we were literally at like 2 live viewers. So thank you all who watch. Super chats are open if you'd like to support the show financially. You don't have to, but if you'd want to, it's more than welcome, appreciated. I'll go right to my racing fund. So any super chats are appreciated. And check out theracingexperts.com for NASCAR media related content. So we're going to go in order here. The Salem race happened first, and then Shasta happened second, and then we'll end with Elko. So that's how we're going to start off with Salem Speedway. Now, Salem Speedway is one of the more, I would say, revered short tracks on the schedule. It is a very, very tough racetrack. And I can actually say that myself because I drove Salem Speedway in a Salem Supercar this year for Will Kimmel. So it's kind of weird actually having some experience at a track that ARCA was able to go to. I can only imagine doing Salem in an ARCA car, man, like with all that extra horsepower, man. Like I was out there in a 602 crate engine, old Cup car, and I was struggling. I had a great time, but boy, I was struggling. I can only imagine doing this in an ARCA car. And not only that, but we had a big car count, 25 cars, arguably one of the bigger car counts at Salem, a track like Salem. I think one of the reasons why because Salem used to have 2 races, and I think one of the reasons why they only went down to 1 was maybe car counts. I have to imagine it was car counts because Salem usually did okay, averaged about 30, but the last couple years had been pretty rough. From 2019 to 2023, they had averaged only about 19 cars. So to go from 19 cars in 2023 to 25 cars in 2024, pretty good. That is a pretty good gap. Unfortunately, the cars at the front of the field usually stayed the same, though. We did have some different entries for this race. We had the 69, of course, of Will Kimmel. We actually had 2 Kimmel Racing entries. The 68 of Mike Basham, who was in a Startin Park entry. And then, of course, 69 of Will Kimmel. Isaac Johnson returned for a second week in the 34 for Greg Van Alst. Brayton Laster was back for Peterson. Ryan Roulette was back for Hillenberg. Corey Day, who I believe isn't he a dirt racer? He made his debut in the Mark Webb Pinnacle Racing car. Jake Finch returned to Venturini. Ed Pompa returned to Fast Track. Andrew Patterson returned for yet another week, and Chris Golden returned in the 86. So, like I said, 25 cars, decent-sized field. I knew we were going to have a couple of starting parks. Like I said, more than likely the 86, more than likely the 68, and Brad. Brad is pretty much going to be parking for the rest of the year. I hope not, but from what he told me, that's what it's more than likely looking like. So I knew we were going to have some starting parks mixed in there. So realistically, of the 25 cars that were entered, probably give or take maybe 21 sprint car driver. Okay, so Corey Day is a sprint car driver. Thank you for that clarification. I literally had no idea who this Corey Day guy was when they were announced. And hey, I'll say for his first ARCA start at a track like Salem, guy did a hell of a job. But yeah, I knew we were going to have a couple of starting parks in the field. Kimmel Racing did do a test at Winchester to see which car they were going to bring. They brought the usual car that they brought, the same car that they brought last year. And I'm pretty sure they just had this car entered number one for a little bit of money. You know, like I said, a little bit of purse money because Salem's the home track for the Kimmels, and to get some test laps on the car because I'm sure Kimmel is going to want to use that short track car for 2024 and beyond as well. So, yeah, we knew we were going to have a couple of starting parks, but still a pretty stellar field. Lots of mid-pack developments. I think that's been one of the highlights of the ARCA series in 2024. Yes, while the cars at the front of the field hasn't really changed, it's still the same guys. You can definitely say that the depth of the mid-pack in ARCA has grown tremendously in terms of competitiveness, and it's kind of fun to see. It really is in some ways the more, in my personal opinion, the more entertaining part of the series week to week. Sometimes, I mean, the front of the field battles can be good, but the mid-pack battles in this series, in my opinion, are really where a lot of the fun can be. So I was at a family event on Thursday or Saturday, so I actually wasn't able to watch the race live. I had to watch it back. Luckily, through Discord and Twitter updates, I was able to keep up with it, but I wasn't actually watching it. Not shocker, William Sawalich won practice pretty handedly, 2/10 over the field, but I had to believe that was a qualifying run. LeVar Scott was second. Will Kimmel was third. Corey Day, like I said, pretty impressive speed for his first start, even though we know that 28 team is really good. Chris Wright, fifth. Amber Balkin, sixth. Andrew Patterson, seventh. Gus Dean, eighth. Tony Breidinger, ninth. And Andres Perez, 10th. Jake Finch down in 11th. And, you know, I wanted to make a little bit note on Jake Finch. You know, I'll admit, I don't know what your guys' opinion in. And I like Jake Finch. I've met him before at a late model race. Good kid. But I'll be honest, we've seen him be strong at the plate tracks. And yeah, he's in a Venturini car. Obviously, he's going to run up front, but I just kind of expected him to be like winning races. I don't know. I figured he would be like leading laps, winning races. And realistically, I mean, yeah, he's up front, but he's just not running to, I think, the caliber that 20 car, which is the flagship car, in my personal opinion, is not really running at. So I don't know what your guys' opinion on that, but I feel like maybe just expect a little bit more out of Jake Finch, my personal opinion. I'm not sure what you guys think, but that was just kind of my observation. I mean, seeing the 20 car, the flagship Venturini car, practicing outside of the top 10, you just don't see that. You just do not see that. All 25 cars did take a practice lap. Chris Golden was the slowest in the 86. Qualifying came up next. And again, shocker, William Sawalich on the pole. Again, with just a blistering lap. Luckily, like I said, Jake Finch was back up to third, but still, I felt like the speed should be at least where that, if not right up next to where that 18 is. Corey Day was fifth, Chris Wright sixth, Andres Perez de Lara seventh, Gus Dean eighth, Amber Balkin ninth, and Will Kimmel down in 10th. Now, we do make a mention of Will Kimmel. That car did not have an Ilmor engine. Will has not been running an Ilmor engine, I believe, all year, actually, in that car. That is, and it's not even a Yates motor, because in ARCA, you can run 3 motors. You can run, of course, the Ilmor. That's the main engine. You can run a Yates spec engine, which is primarily for short tracks. And then you can run what we call the legacy motors. You can run a legacy motor, which is a D3 Ford, an SB2 Chevrolet. And I can't remember off the top of my head what it's called for a Dodge. But you can run an ex-Dodge motor, Chevy motor, or Ford motor, and they just classify that as the legacy motor. You can still run that, or the OEM engine. R5, thank you. We got Cody Dennison in the chat. We'll get to Cody in a second. The R5. So thank you, Cody. So yeah, the SB2, R5, or D3 OEM engines are allowed, but they do get a horsepower penalty, which is basically they give you a bigger plate. They give you basically a bigger plate, less air into the engine, and so less horsepower is made. So thanks for that clarification, Cody. I appreciate that. I just didn't remember what the term was off the top of my head. Kimmel was running a D3 Ford. Unfortunately, he did have a penalty there, which does suck because, I mean, you got to believe if Kimmel had an Ilmor in that car and had the same amount of horsepower that guys like the 18 were running, I got to believe Will could have won that race, man. I think the biggest thing holding him back is that motor, but I get it. He just can't afford it because a new Ilmor is well over $50,000, probably close to $70,000. I think for a fresh off the market Ilmor, and then a rebuild for an Ilmor engine is what, over 30,000. So it's not cheap. It is not cheap to run these Ilmor motors at all. And Yates is good too, but even those engines, they're expensive. They're a little inexpensive. They're a little bit more inexpensive, but they're still expensive nonetheless. So a lot of teams will choose to run engines like that. Like, for instance, Brad Smith runs an SB2 Chevrolet motor. Wayne Peterson this last weekend in the Dodge with Brayton Laster ran an R5 Dodge motor. So then that's all they can really afford to run with. So just wanted to classify that. That's the motor that Will Kimmel was running. And yes, his car sounded like the cars that normally had X pipes. Still 100% unclear if he's actually running X pipes or not. It sounds like he's running X pipes, but I haven't gotten 100. He won't tell me 100% if he's actually running X pipes on the 69 car. I hope he is, because that car just sounds awesome. So we get to the race itself. Again, beautiful night. Salem Speedway under the lights. I mean, it's a beautiful little area. If you haven't been to Salem Speedway and you live in the Midwest, it's a beautiful little track. It's cute. It's a great area. Good people. And the race got off hot. I mean, literally on the first lap, William Sawalich gets the jump on LeVar Scott as the outside lane is, the proven groove there. And literally not one lap in to the race, not one lap into the race, Tony Breidinger, who had qualified a very impressive fourth, fell back pretty quickly through the field. And then Amber Balkin, who was on the inside of Greg Van Alst. And I watched the wreck back. And it doesn't look like Greg Van Alst really came down at all. If anything, it just looks like Amber came into him, and then she just sent careening into the wall, and then boom, within one lap, Amber Balkin, and there's no safer barriers at a track like Salem. Unfortunately, it's concrete wall, so you're gonna do some damage. And Amber Balkin absolutely destroys the front of her car. Absolutely destroyed the front of her car on lap one. Now, you could just say I would say it was more of a racing deal. I wouldn't put the blame on Amber. I wouldn't put the blame on Greg. I would just say it's one of them racing deals. But man, that's got to suck for Amber. The same thing kind of happened during her run at the 30 team a couple years ago, where it's just a lot of bad luck and a lot of bad moments, whether it was her fault, whether it was not her fault. And they just went through a lot of race cars. And unfortunately, this would be the start of a pretty bad night for Venturini. Definitely not the strongest night for the Venturini gang. And this was just the first start. So they racked him up, got the field back going again. Again, William Sawalich with the outside lane with the preferred groove easily got the jump on the start. So William Sawalich, and this car is just hooked up. Absolutely hooked up. When that 18 car is on point, man, it is amazing just how much better it really is than the rest of the field. It was miles better than everyone tonight. And you got to give a testament to William Sawalich too at the end of the day. The guy, at the end of the day, doesn't matter how good of a car you have, you also got to have a good driver behind the wheel. So you got to give William Sawalich his flowers as well. So race gets, like I said, William Sawalich, he's pulling away. The battle for seconds heating up. You got Chris Wright, He's going for second. Then you got the Rev Racing cars. Then you got Jake Finch and Gus Dean, along with Tody Breidinger, Isaac Johnson, Greg Van Els. Really, really good battle throughout the rest of the top 10. And then, of course, Chris Wright does what Chris Wright does best. On lap 24, 25, whatever which one it was, he comes in with heavy right side damage to the car. Heavy right side damage to the car. And right as that happened, we had a caution for the 95 of Andrew Patterson. Appeared to have, Racing Reference says he had an accident in 1 and 2, but it's his reason for out is listed as mechanical. But it looks like maybe he had a tire go down. So can anyone confirm, did it look like the 95 maybe blew a tire or something? Because it looked like a lot of damage. Now, with Chris Wright, it didn't 100%. It wasn't kind of clear if it was 100% his fault. Maybe it looked like he got ran into there by a teammate or not. It was a tire. Thank you, Gavin. Of course, Gavin was there. Gavin Newton, who designs paint schemes. You might know him. Runnings Racing Designs. He designs, I can't think off the top of my head here, but he designs paint schemes in the ARCA series. So, yeah. Right front was flat, and he pancaked. Oh, God. Well, that really sucks for Man Motorsports, man, because they don't have a lot of cars over there. They don't have a lot of parts, so yeah, that sucks for them. But thank you, because like I said, TV and the reviews didn't really do it justice, but I appreciate that. So by this point, the 68, like I said, had pulled off, and the 86 had pulled off, so we were down to 21 cars. Brad Smith would pull off after 34 laps. And Dale Scheer, we will mention Dale Scheer here for a second before we get back to the race. He would pull off after 40 laps. I don't think he was a starting park. Dale always tells me when he shows up, he's there to race. He's not really there to pull in for a couple laps. And Dale Scheer, unfortunately, went to the hospital, actually. They stopped the race. They got Dale into an ambulance, and they took him to the hospital. The ARCA Racing account even would post that it was Dale Scheer who was being transported to a local medical facility. I have a statement right here from Dale that he sent me, and I'm going to read it to you guys. Hang on one second. I had to pull it up here, but I'm just trying to bring up the statement. So Dale put out a statement that basically reads as follows, and then this is coming from Dale Scheer, everyone. So I'm in the emergency room appreciating the air conditioning. It was really hot at Salem. I was not there, but it was a long day. From a lot of friends there saying it was hot, really, really hot. Then I find out this was all over, mentioned the broadcast. So the situation goes from bad to worse. I had not a chance to call home, apparently. So yeah, it was not heat stroke. I just got baked. I had been there a while, and then one of my crew was told it had been mentioned on the broadcast. So I went back to worst. It's for a phone. Call my family. No way to schmooze himself out of this. No heat stroke. I am fine. Just felt beat up. So Dale says it was not heat stroke, but either way, I can only imagine how hot it was, especially in that car. So the good news is Dale's fine, and that's all that matters. Dale's not a spring chicken anymore. I love the guy. He's in his mid-60s. So, like I said, when it comes to heat, especially when you're in your 60s, that's nothing to joke about. Absolutely nothing to joke about. I see Uncle Wayne out there. He's in his mid-80s. He struggles bad in the heat too. So, just glad Dale's okay because, like I said, the heat's nothing to joke about, especially at that age. But yeah, so it sucks. It's like I said, Dale wanted to keep it private, but then unfortunately, all the ARCA teams got to release it, and so it's like, I mean, and I got clearance from Dale to say that. Don't worry, but yeah, Dale's Dale. Just glad to see him back. He will not be in Elko this weekend, unfortunately, so that sucks. But Dale will be at Milwaukee. Dale will be at Milwaukee, so maybe I'll see him up there. But yeah, just that's the good news is despite what the reports had initially put, Dale Scheer is okay. Although is he released from the hospital? I got people saying he was released from the hospital, and then I got some people saying he wasn't, but I would presume by now that he is. So Can only hope so. But either way, Dale Shear, we're all pulling for you. Even if you're out of the hospital by now, buddy, we all love you, and we all can't wait to see you back at the racetrack. Absolutely love you, Dale Shear. So yeah, going back to the race now after we got done talking about Dale. So at this point, we are down to 19 cars. Okay, we are down to 19 cars. Everyone else who was still on track was committed to running the full race. Catching up back with the leaders. Not much with the leader. William Sawalich was absolutely pulling away. Give a call to LeVar Scott, who I feel like just suddenly out of nowhere, LeVar Scott has just picked it up. LeVar Scott ran up as high as second. Most of the race, I will say, he ran second. He would finish third, spoiler, but he ran really, really well. And lately, like I said, has been really coming along here. We had our next caution on lap 68. The 31 of Rita Goulet spun out on lap 68. Really didn't, I'll say, spin, but I think Salem has a unique turn one, so it's kind of weird to mention this, but I can since I've driven Salem. But there's a big divot in Salem, and with the 31 car, she kind of tries to stay out of the way. She runs the lower groove, and how big the divot is at Salem, where it suddenly goes from like flat to banked. When you hit that at the wrong way, trying to angle yourself into the corner, it'll cause the car to spin out. And I think that's what happened to her. And then she caught it. Thankfully, she caught it quickly. But nonetheless, that brought out a yellow. We got back under green again. William Sawalich again gets the jump. I mean, it's just impossible to beat that 18 on the jump. When he's the control car, he's got the best handling car. And he can get the launch and the start. It is just so hard to beat him. So we get back going green again, 14 laps. And then on lap 88, we have the biggest, arguably the biggest moment of the race until the 28 crash later on. Now, unfortunately, TV did not show the start of this. Now, what we saw on TV, I'm going to start off with what we saw on TV. Sorry, I'm getting my words a little jumbled up here. But what we see on TV is we just see the 35 stalled, the 03 stalled, and then all the leaders are checking up like crazy. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, you see the 99s turned around, the 10s turned around, and then the 20 car just decides, hey, I'll get in there, and just absolutely slams into the 10. Now, Jake Finch did say that his throttle hung. Did it actually hang? Who knows? Sure, the only people who know that are Jake Finch himself and the team. But, yeah, and that sucks for Ed because it's like it made it 15 times worse. Like, oh, the poor guy's already crashed. The car's damaged. And then here comes the 20 at like 50 miles per hour still and just pancakes him. Thankfully, it was not on the door hit or a driver's side door hit. It just sucks because it was two Andy Hillenberg cars. You always hate to see that. Now, there was some footage, and I can't quite find it off the top of my head. I'm trying to look this up. I've been looking this up all day, but I can't seem to find it. But it appeared that the 35 maybe had a mechanical problem because his reason for incident reason for out was mechanical. So I think the 35 had a mechanical problem of some sort. And then with the 99, I mean, people who were there, like Gavin, if you're watching, what did it look like on your end? Exactly what started the crash. I forgot off the top of my head. What exactly happened. Oh, he sent me the video. Thanks, Gavin. So we've got a video here. See if I can show this. So let's see here. Can you guys see that? Trying to get the sunlight out of it. So something happened with the 35 and the 99. The 10 car had nowhere to go. Plows into the 35. Dennison barely misses it. Dennison barely misses it. And then the 03 checks up. 99 came down to the track in the 35K. And then Dennison barely misses it. 10 nowhere to go. And then, like I said, where was the 20 spotter? Like, you look at where the 20 car was at the time when the crashes started. I mean, even if the throttle is hanging, run the outside wall, dude. I don't know. I don't know what happened there. But to me, Jake Finch coming into that crash was a little inexcusable. I'm not really sure. But unfortunately, I don't like the when people joke about it, but that he called it at the start-finish line. So, yeah, I mean, you got to think. There probably had to have been a mechanical problem. Either the throttle really did hang or Jake just decided he wanted to be a part of the crash. I don't know. But we have our classic ARCA brakes moment. I mean, I don't like the meme, but sometimes it just goes like that, where we do have an ARCA brake meme. So that was the weird crash of the race. And I hate it for Andy Hillenberg's guys anytime because, I said, like I believe Gavin was a spotter of the 10 car. Zachary was working on the 10 car. Heavily damaged that car. The 99 was damaged. Another Venturini car was severely damaged. So, I mean, we're not even halfway through the race, and 3 Venturini cars had some serious damage. And unfortunately, it was only going to get worse. So they get all this cleaned up. We get back going green. And again, William Sawalch, there is just no catching him. We get to the scheduled break two, number 2. And by this point, we only have 16 cars left on the track. And then we have the next big accident of the race. Like I said, 2 really, really hellacious accidents in this race. This one, then again, involving Corey Day and Tony Breidinger. And amazing how Presley Sora, go check out his Twitter account. Presley Sora actually managed to get this crash on video. That is amazing how Presley always seems to get this stuff on video. So shout out to him. But it was lap 132. They're coming off a turn 2. Corey Day. So like I said, doing a really, really fantastic job for his first ever ARCA race and at a track like Salem. It appeared, in my personal opinion, I'm not sure how you guys felt, but he was going for third place, went to the inside of LeVar Scott. They made a little bit of contact. Corey gets a little bit loose. But I think, in my personal opinion, he came down. He came up into the 6, got himself loose. And I thought we were about to have one of the worst accidents of the ARCA season right here. Amber's crash was bad, but at the rate that Corey Day was moving, he looked like he was about to go head on, and I mean head on, into a concrete barrier. Absolutely about to go head on into a concrete barrier. Thankfully swerves. I mean, I don't know what the crash would have looked like. And Tony Breidinger, I'm not really sure what happened here. She just goes into turn 3 and spins out. And unfortunately, they collide into each other. So again, major damage to the 4th Venturini car. All 4 Venturini cars, all 5 of the 4 Venturini cars now have serious damage. And the 28 is killed. Too much rear brake. Yeah, probably. Probably hit the brakes too hard and spun out, pretty much. And you can do that very easily at Salem. That's one of the things that the Kimmels told me. And that was one of the things I was worried about in my Salem supercar. Will told me, do not put too much rear brake because it'll jack you right around, especially when you try to turn. So, yeah, but that's 4 of the 5 Venturini cars, and now it's some pretty serious damage. So again, and that was the last caution of the race. Final restart there. Again, William Sawalch just pulls away. Nobody is going to challenge him at this point unless he wrecks himself or he runs out of fuel by chance. Nothing is going to happen to that 18, and he was going to win. On the restart, however, it was pure calamity for second place. You had the final Venturini car out there, Gus Dean, and then the 2 Rev cars. But going into turn 3, I'm not sure if Gus put himself in the wall or the 6 of LeVar Scott put him in the wall. You could say 50-50. But nonetheless, Gus Dean in the wall really, really hard. Somehow does not blow the tire immediately. The car keeps going. But eventually, a couple laps later, the tire does go down, and Gus, still moving at too much of a high rate of speed, hits the concrete wall in turn 3 again, literally in the exact same spot. And so that means all 5 Venturini cars with major, major damage. And, I know this team's on a big budget. Team Venturini, like I said, they're kind of the Hendrick Motorsports of the series. They have a lot of funding. But even then, for a team of that size, and you do look at Venturini's race shop, if any of you guys have actually been to Venturini's race shop, it is not the biggest race shop. It really isn't. It really isn't that big of a race shop as you think it would be. And that's a lot of work for those guys. That is basically 5 brand new cars, because that 25 is going to need a new rear clip. That 22 probably need a new front clip. The 15 and 55 will need a lot of work done on the right side. And the 20 probably going to need a new front clip as well. So a lot of work's going to need to be done to those cars. And I'm curious on what Venturini is going to bring to Elko, because apparently I'm not sure if it was 100% confirmed or not, but I do believe that the cars that they ran here were going to be run at Elko. Now I've heard differing sides of that. Some people have said it was going to be the same primaries for Elko. Some people have told me that it was not going to be the same primaries for Elko. So we'll just go 50-50 on that. That was not 100% confirmed, but I did hear that from a couple of people. So, yeah, long night for Venturini, man. Really rough night for them. And you're going to have that. Even the highest of high-budget teams will have those nights. Now, you hear me mentioning all of these big teams falling out of the race, right? The 28, the Venturini team, Van Alst. Well, what this did, it gave some underdog teams some absolutely great runs. Cody Dennison up into the top 10. Ryan Roulette up into the top 10. Brayton Laster up into the top 10. Michael Maples, for the time being, was in the top 10 despite being involved in that accident. By this point, we only had 13 cars. We had some really, really, really good underdog stories. Meanwhile, William Swalch just cruising along. I mean, he's on a Saturday night drive. He easily wins handedly by over 5 seconds. Andres Perez de Lara was able to get past his teammate for second. Again, pretty much, I would say at this point, he's clinched the title. He hasn't, but he's got over a 50-point lead. LeVar Scott with a very good third-place finish. Shout out to Will Kimmel. It was arguably the most fun battle for the last 15 to 20 laps. In an underpowered car, he managed to hold off Isaac Johnson and Christian Rose. So, yeah, and the fact that he's doing that, like I said, in a car with almost 100 horsepower less by estimate is pretty impressive. And that just goes to show you how good Will Kimmel is at Salem. And just like Charlotte, man, like in an underpowered car, 2 top 5 finishes. Get this man in Elmore. Cody, like I said, Cody Dennison says, with 30 to go, I was told I couldn't gain or lose, pretty much. I had a vibration and brakes were mostly gone, so I nursed it home. I can imagine. I'm just glad you survived, buddy, because Cody just seemed to be almost around all the crashes, but yet he didn't get hurt. He didn't get hit. I don't think he even got hit at all, so that's great. But nonetheless, Christian Rose top 5, Isaac Johnson 6th. Cody Dennison, like I said, ended up 7th, his best ARCA main series result. So good for him. Good for Andy Hillenberg's team. Ryan Roulette got a top 10 finish. Brayton Laster for Peterson, another top 10 finish for Wayne. I don't even know how many top 10s that makes for Wayne. Not very many. But anytime we see a Wayne Peterson car in the top 10, we give that a thumbs up. Always good seeing Uncle Wayne up there. And unfortunately, Michael Maples was passed in the last couple laps by Chris Wright. And he got Chris Wright for 10th, or Chris Wright got him for 10th. Michael Maples 11th, Alex Clubb 12th, and Rita Goulet was 13th. They were the only cars that finished the race, and everyone else DNF'd. So absolute calamity. And it marks 3 races in a row. That the one person has led all the laps at Salem. Now, you look at the car that they did it in. 2022, the 18 car, arguably the best car in the field, was Sammy Smith. That was probably going to happen. 2023, Jesse Love was on his championship tour. Nobody was going to stop him. So not shocking that he led all 200 laps. William Sawalich in the 18 car. I mean, again, you just look at how much of a tear that guy's on, and all the setup information that the team has. So it's not shocking again that they led all 200 laps. Yes, we would like more competition up front, but you know what? It happens. It happens. It's not a big deal to me because the race was still fun to watch. It wasn't like, it was just the first guy led all the laps and the race was boring. No. I mean, the battle. If you take out the 18 car, I hate saying this to William Sawalich because I'm even wearing a shirt. But if you took out the 18 car and you had everybody else in the field, this was probably one of the best ARCA races in history, or at least in the modern era, with how much fun the racing was. The racing was great behind the 18. I mean, 2nd through 10th was so hotly contested. So I can't say the race was bad. It was still thoroughly entertaining. It really was. We have Isaac Johnson Racing even in the chat. The battle with Kimmel and Rose was the most fun. It really was. Like I said, you had Kimmel holding on for his life out there in an underpowered car with two guys who clearly had more horsepower than him. So that was fun to watch. Looks like Isaac Johnson's next ARCA race will be Kansas. So that's good. But yeah, great, good finishes behind the leader. Like I said, some great underdog stories, even if they were attrition-based. I mean, we get it. It's attrition-based finishes. But you know what? A 7th-place finish is a 7th-place finish. Cody earned it. Ryan earned it. Braden earned it. Chris Wright, well, he should be running better than that, but it's Chris Wright. Michael Maples, man, he deserved that top 10. So, but I still would classify it as a good race. I'm not going to say it was great, but it was a good race. It was a good race. Definitely is not the worst main series race we saw this season, not by any means. So I can't say that at all, even though William did lead all 200 laps. Cannot say it was the worst race by any means. I think Berlin was worse than this, in my personal opinion. So, yeah, definitely not bad here. The point standings coming out of this race, we'll probably save those for our Elko portion of the show. But the Owners' Championship is really where the battle is right now, considering the 20 car took a hit. But the Drivers' Championship, I would say, is pretty much locked up for Andres Perez de Lara. If he just kind of just keeps the car clean, no real damage, like just runs and finishes, he will be your 2024 champion. But like we've said on the last couple of podcasts, in my personal opinion, he needs to win at least one race to help legitimize this championship. Because if Andres Perez de Lara does not win a race this year, personally, I'm not going to call that much of a championship win. He's got to win at least one race, in my opinion, to help legitimize the championship. I'm not sure how you guys feel about that, but in my opinion, he needs to win at least once. Because, I mean, you can say what you want about Jesse Love's season last year. Oh, he had no competition. Yeah, the guy still won half the season. He won a lot of races. He earned his championship. In my opinion, the Andres this year really hasn't. I don't know what you guys feel about that, but still. Whew. So, yeah, that was Salem. Got passed on the last lap. Oh, come on. Really? Michael got passed on the last lap. Man, Mike is his crew chief. Why didn't Mike just tell him to dump him? Oh, that would have been great. Man, Michael deserved that. Dang. But we go from the first ARCA race of the day to the second ARCA race of the day, all the way across the U.S. in, where was this track again? Anderson, California. I knew it was there. Shasta Speedway. This track returned to the schedule after a long hiatus. It was good to see it back last year. Unfortunately for this year, the car counts were the biggest noticeable thing on the entry list. Despite a really good car count at Salem, the car count at Shasta was bad. And there's no ifs, ands, or buts around it. It was bad. 13 cars. We have not seen a car count that small since, I believe, 2022. I think that was for one of the Portland races. And a car count like that kind of goes back to the COVID era when the ARCA West Series really, really struggled for car counts, and we were getting around like 11 a race. I think I remember back in 2020. It was pretty much just the full-time cars, the cars that you would expect to show up, and then the 80. Pretty much was the only guys in the field. No real changes. Sean Hingorani was back for the Jerry Pitts team, who I assume he'll finish out the season with for the races he does not have scheduled for Venerini. Derek Copeland was in the 80. I believe he's a native of the area. And other than that, it was just kind of the regular full-time cars. Like I said, Jaron Giannani was in the 23, and Robbie Keenley was in the 11 this time, not the 1, but not really sure why they brought the 11 instead of the 1. But either way, he was entered nonetheless. Shasta's a 3/8 mile, 0.375 mile track. Race was only 56 miles long. This race only took 43 minutes. And like I said, there's just not a whole lot to digest about this race. And I'm not trying to be rude. You know, like I said, the ARCA West Series, personally, I've said it before, is my favorite of the ARCA Series. But there just isn't a whole lot to digest. Tyler Reif won the pole. For the Kelly Souza team. He started on pole and he led all 150 laps. You know, I hate not going too much in depth about the race, but not really a whole lot happened. I watched the entire race. It was only 43 minutes long, like I said. You know, Tyler got the jump. Sean Hingorani in the 5 car, who we know is not afraid to be aggressive, he started second, quickly settled himself into second, and he could get to him, but it seems like he would just use up his stuff getting to him, and then he would kind of fall off, get to him, then fall off, and it just kind of repeated itself. You know, everybody just kind of stayed in their same positions, how I say, like Trevor Huddleston started 4th, finished 3rd. Derek Copeland started 5th, finished 4th. Kyle Keller started 7th, finished 5th. Jack Wood started 3rd, finished 6th. You see what I'm trying to say? It's like not a whole lot of attrition. The biggest mover of the race was Nick Janitis going from 12th to 8th. Honestly, it felt like for the Jan Qualkenbush team. Takuma Koga finished 9th. David Smith 10th. Jaron Giannani fell out due to brake issues. Eric Johnson Jr., who overall has had an unfortunate, disappointing season, I would say, had mechanical issues all week. I believe they had to change a motor, and he finished 12th. And Robbie Keenley, it looks like, was just a simple start and park. He only ran 5 laps. So, like I said, not really too much to digest about this race. I think really the only thing I can really digest about this race is it was fantastic seeing the Kelly Souza CCCM team, Todd Souza's team, getting a win. Hard to believe, their first win in 16 years. 16 years. We have kids who are driving now since the last time that Todd Souza's team won a race, and it was the Utah Motorsports Campus West race in 2008. That was the last win for Todd Souza's West team. So this was well-deserved. I'm so happy to see this team doing well, and I hope Tyler goes out there and wins the championship. And he did reclaim the points lead. We're going to look at the points standings now following this race. Like I said, just not a whole lot to cover as we go straight to the point standings. Tyler Reif, though, did reclaim the points lead because he led all the laps. Got the bonus points. Doesn't lead by much. I think he only leads by probably, 2 points? 2 points over the 5 or the 5, 15, 61, however many numbers you want to give Sean Hingorani this season. Jack Wood's a distant 3rd. Trevor Huddleston's a distant 4th. Kyle Keller's a distant 5th. They're pretty much out of it at this point. It is down to a 2-horse race. In terms of the Owners' Championship for the series, Kelly Souza's team still leads the Owners' Championship. Joe Ferre, the 23 car, they still sit second, although they might have lost that. The points have not been updated, it looks like. But we can confirm that the 13 still lead in the Owners' Championship. But it looks like the McAnally entry may have slipped into second. I haven't done the points in my head, but either the 23 or the 16 is in second. So right now it's going perfect for the Kelly Souza team. Right now, they lead the Drivers' Championship and the Owners' Championship. But like I said, just not a whole lot to digest from Shasta. I hope it returns to the series next year, and I hope we can get a better car count. Because, man, having only a 13-car field, a start in parks, only having 12 cars run the whole race, yeah, there just wasn't really any attrition, not a whole lot to talk about. But like I said, it was good that we at least had a fun winter, and seeing Todd Souza get back to victory lane. Again, I hate only spending like 4 or 5 minutes on it, but there just was nothing to talk about. The pole sitter started on first, led all 150 laps. Like I said, you could say, oh, it was just like Salem. No, Salem had action. This was just nothing really happened. Nothing really happened in the race. And that's nothing against the drivers. The drivers are going out there and going as hard as they can. It's no disrespect to the field, but it's just when you have a small car count like this, that's what happens sometimes on these short tracks. And that's why I said car counts matter a lot more than people think. But, yeah, just really happy for the Souza team, and I hope Tyler can go out there and win the championship. The next ARCA West Series event is, I believe, is it at Tri-City? Is Tri-City the next one on the schedule? Very glad to see that track come back. Yes, Tri-City on August 10th. So we have a week break off, and then we'll be back there. The ARCA West season quickly wrapping up too. Only have a couple of races left. But yeah, looking forward to Tri-City. That's going to be a fun one. That is going to be a fun one. So now we transfer over from the review portion of the show to our preview portion of the show. Yes, Elko Speedway in Minnesota. A wonderful little area. I went to Elko for the very first time last year, actually, with Brad Smith. It was a last-minute deal. Brad needed help. He only had 2 guys, needed a 3rd guy. And just a lovely little short track. Absolutely beautiful area. Good people. Really good local people. It has a drive-in movie behind it. Like, it's a big little area. It's a beautiful, kept-up track. Probably one of the nicer short tracks I've personally been to in terms of how they keep it clean, in terms of how it looks. Like, it looks like it's from the 1950s, but yet it's modernized. You know what I'm trying to say? It looks like it's modernized, but it's keeping the 1950s look, and I like that. I like that a lot, especially the drive-in movie. But yeah, so my second time to Elko, and thankfully car counts are doing better. We have more cars than we did last year. Last year we only had 19 cars. This year we have 20, including a very surprising entry that nobody saw coming. But we'll go over the entry list as follows. I'll start off with the 2 of Andres Perez de Lara, the 6 of LeVar Scott. Bryce Hogberg returns to the 10. He ran this race last year for Andy Hillenberg, so good to see him back. Cody Dennison, of course, in the 11. Ryan Roulette is back in the 12. Chris Wright in the 15. William Sawalch in the 18. Sean Hingarani returning to the main series in the 20 for Venerini. Amber Balkin in the 22. Tony Breidinger in the 25 with a new sponsor this weekend. I'm not sure if she's had it before, but Sunoco will be on the 25. Rick Reddig Tackman, you might remember him. He ran the 48 last year at Milwaukee for Brad Smith. He's back in the 31 for Rise Motorsports. Christian Rose in the 32. Greg Van Elsen in the 35. E.J. Tamayo, or Tamayo. I don't know exact pronunciation of it, but you might remember that team from last year. Tamayo Cosentino Racing. Team, unfortunately, had so much potential. God, that team was doing so good. But unfortunately, funding put them out. They are back with EJ behind the wheel. So that was random. Talk about a random entry. I had no idea that car was going to show up. Brad Smith, of course, in the 48. That's the car I'll be on. Good old Isabella Robusto. Hope to finally meet her this weekend at Elko. She'll be in the Mobile 1 car. Brian Clubb. Yes, Brian Clubb. Alex Clubb's father. Brian Clubb, who was a very accomplished racer in his day in super late models, dirt racing. Brian Clubb has been racing for a long time. Long time. Guy's beaten some health problems in the last couple of years, and I'm glad to see Brian back driving. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, with, like I said, I don't know when the last time we saw a father-son duo, maybe was it what? Frank and Frankie? Was that the last time we saw a father-son duo in the same race at ARCA? Can I do a fact check on that real quick? Was that the last time we saw a father and son in the same race? Frankie? I don't know off the top of my head, but that might be the last time. I can't. Frank and Will. Oh, yeah, that's true. I forgot about that. But still, it's been a long time. It's been a long time since we've seen a father and son doing the same race. Alex Club, of course, is in his 03 entry. Michael Maples in the 99, and then Nate Muller in the 06. So Elko has been one of those tracks that has struggled for car counts. The series has been coming here for quite a few years. The biggest car count the track got was only 28, and that was their first year. In 2012, the track got 28. Ever since 2013, the track has really struggled for car counts. Even when you could say ARCA was still in its prime in 2013 and 2014, the track could only muster up just barely over 20 cars. So this is nothing new. If anything, getting 20 cars is actually an accomplishment. Last year, we only had 19. This year, we got 20. So, and from the looks of it, we got 18 full race cars that will be attempting the distance. Probably the only starting parks will be Nate Muller, the 06, and us, the 48 car of Brad Smith. I believe everybody else, all other 18 cars, will be attempting, keyword attempting, the full race. So, and at a 3/8 mile track like Elko, that's perfectly fine. 18 cars at 3/8 mile is more than enough to put on a decent show. I was there for last year's race. The battle between the 18 and the 20, that was fun. That was fun to watch last year. Didn't they wreck into each other a couple times? I know Jesse Love roughed up the 18 car a little bit in the race last year. Jesse Love would go on to dominate the race, and that's kind of been one of the other things we've seen about this race, the domination. In 2021, I think 2021, Ty Gibbs led 236 laps, didn't win, but dominated. And then in 2022, Sammy Smith led 233. And then last year, Jesse Love also led 233 laps. So, so yeah, definitely another race where it looks like once you kind of get out front, it's hard to get to him. Lots of aggressiveness in this field. No Willie Mullins. They had planned to run, but due to his unfortunate wife getting, I believe it was cancer, well wishes to her. Hopefully she gets better. But Willie's not in the race, so that sucks. But still a very competitive field nonetheless. You could probably easily do a winner's pick with William Sawalich, but hey, you never know. It's short track racing, and usually these are the kinds of tracks where you see something fun and stupid. So that makes it fun. We also have local racing here, which is all I'm excited for, because I remember last year there were many fights. They had a local weekly racing late model series. And there was 3 fights. So that was great. I love local racing fights. They're the best. And we're going to have more of that this weekend probably, because we'll have three different local series will be there with the ARCA series. So it's going to be a full night of action. The point standings for the series coming into the show look like this. 11 races in, Andres Perez de Lara, 46 points. I thought it was closer than that, but 46 points over Greg Van Alst. Hang on a second. Just checking things, making sure the points have, so they have been updated. 46 points over Greg Van Alst. I mean, I think it's safe to say you can pretty much just give the championship to him at this point. As long as he shows up and runs 5th every week, he'll be just fine. But hopefully Greg can still hang on to second place, as LeVar Scott, with the good runs he's been putting together, is only 47 points behind. And again, I note that, for Andres Perez de Lara's title reign so far, but LeVar Scott has actually led more laps than him. That's another kind of funny thing. LeVar Scott's actually led more laps than his teammate. So like I said, Andres needs to pick it up, in my personal opinion. Chris Wright's up to 4th, Amber Balkins 5th, Tony Breidinger 6th, Christian Rose 7th, Michael Maples 8th, Alex Club 9th, and Cody Dennison is 10th. Those are your 10 full season drivers. Andy Jankoliak, who unfortunately could not find the funds to run the whole year, is 11th. William Sawalich on a part-time schedule is 12th. Gio Rogero is 13th. Brad Smith 14th. And Marco Andretti is 15th. The owner standings, though, that is really where, again, your championship lies. And remember, Joe Gibbs Racing did not win it last year. They definitely want to reclaim that. And you could definitely say that after Salem, they got a huge gap. Huge gap. The 18 will have probably a well over a 15-point lead coming out of the Salem for the Owners' Championship. So the Venerini 20 car will definitely have some catching up to do this weekend if they want to claim that Owners' Championship. And that's where the money is in the series. The Drivers' Championship really doesn't have a lot of money behind it, if any. The Owners' Championship really is where the money is in terms of ARCA. So that's why a lot of teams push so hard to win that Owners' Championship. And that's why the 18 team goes so hard every year, because they try to win that Owners' Championship, even though William Sawalich is obviously not old enough to run all the races. So expect that 20 to be extra aggressive this weekend with Sean Hingorani. So we can only imagine what's going to happen. Looking at the entry blank for this race, 5,000 for first, 1,000 for last. Again, we've crapped the payouts enough at this point. It's just not even worth it to talk about it anymore. 10,300 for first with all contingency awards, 55.75 for second, and 4,000 for third. It's a one-day show on Saturday, August 3rd. Will be broadcasted live, Fox Sports 1, 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central Time. And yeah, I would highly recommend watching it, mainly because there's not much racing on. NASCAR is still off their break. They will return, next week? Next weekend? On the 10th, I believe. Or maybe the weekend after that. I don't remember. But NASCAR will be returning soon. I do believe there'll be some late model racing on too, but give this one a watch, guys. It's going to be a fun one. It wouldn't shock me if there's a fight, whether it's from ARCA or the local series. And if you're in the Minnesota area, if you're in the Elko area, come on out. It's going to be a lot of fun. But I'll be doing my live tweets from Brad Smith Motorsports. Looks like I will be the spotter on the 48 car. Since it looks like it might just be me and Brad. It's not the first time I've done that. Iowa in 2021 was actually just me and Brad, literally just me and him. And, I will say, when, you take a rookie crew member like me many years ago and you just you want to get in there, you want to get your hands dirty, do a one-day show with just you and the driver owner. That was just weird. Jeff Smith is listed as the crew chief by default because I don't have the crew chief license. That's why. But yeah, it's just so weird. It is so weird doing it with literally just one guy. Shout out to Andy Hillenberg because they always feed us. And Andy Hillenberg always feeds us. I'm sure we'll probably have to eat some food from Fast Track Racing again this week. And luckily, we're parked right next to them. I looked at the hauler charts. So we're going to have Rise Motorsports on one side, and then we're going to have Andy's team on the other side. So at least we're surrounded by good people. So, oh boy. So, well, I'm so glad this week's podcast went a lot better than last week's podcast. We were actually able to sit down and talk. So that's good. But I'm excited for this weekend's race. I'm excited to go back to Elko. Unfortunately, though, I will say to end the show, I don't want to end the show on a damper, but in terms of what it looks like, the funding right now with no sponsorship, I've been trying, guys. My family's been trying, but it looks like, unfortunately, we will not be making an ARCA start in 2024, and I hate saying that. And the only reason why I say that now, even though we have a lot of races left, is teams like Fast Track don't have any spots open. And teams like Peterson are selling fast. I'm glad, I'm happy for it, but I can't compete with the money that some of these guys are bringing. So I hate to say it now. Maybe things will change. Obviously, it'll change if you can find a good sponsor, but the way it's looking now, unfortunately, I will not be making a start this season. But I will be at the Daytona test. I can confirm that. I can't tell you which team yet because it's so far out, but I can tell you, guys, I will be doing the Daytona test. So I'll be there. But it does suck that I won't be there at all this season driving in 2024. But who knows? Maybe I'll be there in 2025. We'll just have to see. But anyway, guys, I thank you all for tuning in for tonight's show. Like I said, it's just weird with no NASCAR. At least we still got ARCA, you know? Yeah, good old ARCA. But anyway, guys, thank you for tuning in to the show. Keep liking and subscribing. Let's get to 2,000 subscribers before the year is over. Go follow me on Twitter. Let's get to 6,000 followers as well. Sorry, my nasals were plugged. Let's get to 6,000 followers as well. And most importantly, have a good rest of your Tuesday night. So I've been Colby Evans, starting Park Car. Give you all the goodbye salute. And I will see you all next Tuesday with the Elko review. So long, guys.